From someone being lost in the Paris Catacombs to someone receiving a government subsidised phone that may have been spying on them, here are 3 recent Reddit mysteries. If you generally enjoy mysteries, true crime, disappearances, and the occasional conspiracy, please feel free to subscribe and turn on notifications for more content like this. The first mystery is relatively recent, as the user last posted around 5 months ago, so I think it still counts. User snappedfingers has made some very disturbing posts in their time on Reddit. Their bio reads, "I need advice on things that appear but shouldn't, please message me." The account is around a year old and has been posting semi-frequently since it was created up until 5 months ago. Around a month after the account was created, they made a post on r/confession titled, "In 2008, I stuck a power drill into my arm." It read, "For as long as I can remember, I could see and hear things that weren't real and still do. I usually see them in my peripheral vision, and when I go to look at them, they disappear. But sometimes the big ones don't go away when seen. Sometime back in 2008, I was putting together a shelf when this large black mass came out of nowhere and engulfed my unoccupied arm. I didn't see it till it was right up on me. It scared me so badly, and it was coming up from my arm for my face, so I started jamming the drill into it. On the second strike, I hit my arm and the hallucination dissipated. Had to lie when I went to get it patched up, said I slipped and stuck myself." This wasn't the only worrying post made by this user. In another post, they asked if they bit their own finger off, could it be reattached, or could it be attached somewhere else? Another post explains how they saw a kid get hit by a train, but they didn't feel anything. And from there, it just seems to kind of escalate a little bit. They then start talking about interdimensional beings and how they can banish them. As I'm sure you might have already considered, it seems likely that Snapped Fingers might be suffering from some kind of mental illness, such as schizophrenia, and that might be explaining his hallucinations. He stated that from a young age that he'd seen and heard things that weren't there, from things whispering in his ear to things jumping up on his bed and then darting away when he looked at them. Despite this, Snapped Fingers was adamant that they were not schizophrenic. They claimed to have taken medication before and it hadn't made a difference. Of course, medication doesn't work for everyone, and if Snapped Fingers only tried one treatment, that not working doesn't necessarily prove that they're not schizophrenic. Obviously, we don't know for sure that they are, but it does seem kinda likely. But the mystery doesn't end there. They started to become increasingly focused on the Paris Catacombs, believing that there was a portal to hell there. They eventually saved up for a plane ticket, but then later implied that someone had been giving them a lift there. It sounds like they planned to explore the catacombs alone, marking their way with chalk, though they abandoned that idea when someone pointed out that that could also lead the monsters to him. They also even mentioned that they were prepared to cut off one of their own limbs to sacrifice to the interdimensional beings if they had to. Now obviously this is a terrible plan. I mean, even just exploring the catacombs alone is a very dangerous thing to do. People have got lost and even died in there before, and especially coming up with plans to cut your own limbs off without any immediate medical care is just a recipe for disaster. According to the post, he arrived in Calais on Tuesday the 5th of May 2020 after hiring a group of men to give him a lift there. He said he hadn't accounted for the funds to get him from Calais to Paris, so as he was writing the post, he was inside of a bin, where he was hiding away from the interdimensional beings that were surrounding the bin outside. The next post was on r/dimensional breach, asking to be invited back to the Discord server because they needed to know how to start a car without a key. The post contained many spelling mistakes and was slightly incoherent, but it ended with "invite me, invite me, invite me, invite me, please." Again, it's hard to speculate without knowing this person or seeing them, but to me that is a sign that the mental health might have been deteriorating. The next post was on Thursday the 7th of May, when they said that they'd be entering the catacombs within a few hours, that they were just kind of psyching themselves up for it. They said that they'd had to steal a car to get from Calais to Paris, though that they'd hired someone to drop the car back off where they found it, and that they'd left a note in the car to explain the situation. Snapped Fingers mentioned someone who went by the name of Screeching Artistically a few times in this post and in others. He said that he'd been the one to call someone to unlock and start the car without the keys. I couldn't find this person on Reddit. I assumed from what the post was saying that this person was on Discord, but obviously without the number or anything I wouldn't know how to go about finding that person. But as far as I saw, they never commented on any of the Reddit posts, so it seems that it was just someone that they interacted with on Discord, maybe. The post stating that they were just about to enter the catacombs was the last post ever made by this account, and that was 5 months ago, so what on earth happened here? One theory is that this is all just some kind of ARG, that Snapped Fingers isn't a real person, or at least that their experiences aren't real and that it's all just fabricated, or it could even just be a random troll looking for attention. While there are other occasional posts about something else, such as a couple of posts on gaming subreddits, the vast majority of the posts on the account seem to be related to the user's delusions. Another user commented on Snapped Fingers' final post, stating that they knew him in real life. They said that they gave him a lift to work after he was no longer fit to drive himself. They said that something had happened on the way to work one day that they told Snapped Fingers to post online about. The comments are a bit vague, so it's hard to work out exactly what's going on. But this user did claim that they did try and mess with Snapped Fingers a little bit, not really realising that it'd escalate to this point. It sounds like Snapped Fingers had joined a Discord server where he met Screeching Artistically and another person, and they both convinced him that the Paris Catacombs contained a portal to hell. They also convinced him that everyone on the Discord server was possessed. From this user's comments, it sounds like they were all just messing with him, that none of them genuinely believed this and they were just sort of taking the mick. The user claimed that they were aware that someone had picked Snapped Fingers up to take them to Paris, but they just assumed at the time it was his sister or half-sister. They don't say why they assumed this. It's hard to know if this person is telling the truth, but if they are, then that means that Snapped Fingers probably wasn't a troll and is genuinely mentally ill. It sounds like they had every intention of exploring these catacombs with hopes of finding the portal to hell, so what on earth happened to them? I mean, we don't even know for sure that they got there. If this user's correct, then they definitely got picked up. But did they actually arrive at the catacombs? Did they actually end up going in and maybe getting lost in there? Maybe something else happened to them on the way, or maybe they just decided against it and stopped posting. One comment suggested that this user was actually Snapped Fingers and that this was all just some kind of elaborate hoax. The comment suggested that because both accounts had posted about a kid getting hit by a train and them not feeling anything, that it could well be the same person. But the user claimed that this event had happened at some point when he'd driven Snapped Fingers to work, so they'd both seen it. He said that Snapped Fingers had too much pride to post an accurate account of his reaction, so he posted it instead. So at least for now, no one knows if they're the same person or what actually happened to Snapped Fingers. I mean, I really hope that if they were mentally ill that they did end up deciding against going into the catacombs and that they just haven't bothered posting again since because they're now getting some help for whatever they might have been suffering with. But for now, it remains a mystery. A recent post on RBI caught my attention by user lostinthesauceband titled, "I was given a free government subsidised Android phone via Assurance Wireless model ANS-UL40. This device arrived littered with adware, bloatware and what I suspected to be spyware. It installs new apps by itself often and the battery is removable but taped down underneath and labelled unremovable. I'm here to try and find someone I can send this device to who can examine it properly. If not that, I would like to ask if anyone has any ideas what software I would need to do the job myself. I managed to get the battery out after the device froze up completely, and it shocked me to see that double-sided tape was put there and hid under the battery so it would appear it's non-removable. If this wasn't enough, printed on the battery is, "Warning, this battery is built in and is not removable. Do not disassemble or dispose of in a fire, do not compress." A sticker with yet another warning was covering the bottom edge of the battery as well, covering a seam and making it appear the battery was internal. I was only able to get the battery out after removing that sticker and jamming a guitar pick between the gap the sticker covered. I can sit here and tell you all the incredibly sketchy and scary things I've experienced while using the device, but at the end of the day it is a severely underpowered device running an old version of Android. Crashes may just be crashes. Bloatware may just be bloatware instead of spyware. There was chatter online and people giving names of apps to uninstall which they suspect are malicious in some way. The thing is, when I uninstalled certain applications, namely the voice recorder app, which was particularly malicious and talked about online as being one of the apps to uninstall, the device would give me endless pop-ups and become unusable, requiring a full factory reset via the recovery menu to work again. I have been rooting and crack-flashing Android phones since the first Droid came out, and I find the behaviour of this ancient operating system to be extremely bizarre. I personally think that they are spying on those less fortunate. If not via the operating system / bundled software, then via the modem connected to the battery all the time, which has proprietary firmware. At very least they are selling our data, but then again everyone is, and that's kind of assumed since the device is free. They also require you to send / receive a text / call every 30 days to keep the device activated. This video is what made me most curious about the modem. Anyone have any information for a moderately paranoid ex-bum like me? Is there anyone else who might have the same or similar low-powered Android device provided by Assurance Wireless? If anyone has an unmodified device, I'd love to do a side-by-side comparison to show just how deceptive the device was about its very much removable battery. I will be happy to provide some pics if anyone thinks it will help, but pictures of the device are available online and I already removed that sticker and pried the battery out. So when I first read this post, it kinda really creeped me out, but I think when you really dissect it, it might not be as mysterious as it seems. For example, the sticker on the battery telling you not to remove it even though the battery itself appeared removable. Apparently that's not too uncommon for that make of phone. Also the fact that when OP removed it that it was held down with double-sided sticky tape, again that sounds like it's just standard practice for that model. Considering that, I don't know why the phones aren't just built so you just literally cannot take the battery out, like it's right inside the phone. But anyway, I think we can dismiss anything suspicious with the battery at least. As for the adware, OP stated that they even got ads on the lock screen of the phone, which as far as I'm aware is pretty unusual and not very common. I did wonder if that's maybe just kind of the deal when you get a phone that's subsidised by the government. Maybe you kind of pay for it by watching and seeing the ads or whatever. But I feel like that is something that you should be told about at the time of getting the phone, and OP never states that they were warned of anything like that. OP doesn't seem 100% sure that the phone contains spyware, though they seem to consider it a likely possibility. I wish they went into more detail with their experiences with the phone and what led them to believe that, but there doesn't seem to be much detail on that. They stated in a later comment that they'd had the phone for 2 years and had always thought that there was something suspicious about it, but just kind of second-guessed themselves up until now. OP does give one example of something that seemed pretty suspicious. He said that when he tried to uninstall the voice recorder app, that it was just met with endless pop-ups and the phone became unusable, and it required a factory reset to be able to work again. Which just sounds really strange, to be honest. I mean, it could be a coincidence, but it's just like the voice recorder of all things. I mean, if anyone was going to be spying on him, you'd think that they'd probably need that app to do so. It's also pretty strange that the phone seems to download apps itself. I mean, I don't think this is unheard of. I think certain websites that you could go on the internet, I think they could end up downloading files and apps on your phone that you might not even be aware of, so I wonder if OP visited any of those possible sites or if there is a logical explanation about it. It's just hard to say without any further detail on the subject. And to be honest, I think each of these things individually don't sound that suspicious. I mean, I think the voice recorder thing is pretty suspicious, but the other things don't seem that suspicious individually, but when you add them all together, it does seem kind of shady, I guess. Malwarebytes actually did an article on this subject. They were sent a phone which happened to be the same model as OP's to analyse for anything suspicious. The situation was almost identical. A government-subsidised phone with worrying features and suspected spyware. Apps had been automatically downloaded, and this was found to be likely as a result of the Settings app having the ability to download apps from a third-party app store. The apps that had been downloaded were malware-free, but it's not impossible that more dangerous ones could be downloaded in the future. There was a wireless update app on the phone which, according to the article, is categorised as a potentially unwanted program riskware auto-installer that has the ability to install apps without the user's consent or knowledge, and it had installed apps without the user's knowledge or consent. It's impossible to know if OP's phone had the exact same problems that were causing these issues as this phone did, but it is interesting that he wasn't the first person to be worried about this thing, to experience these kind of things with a government-subsidised phone. This wasn't the only article mentioning this either. I found others that were on the exact same thing. They tried to contact the relevant companies but still hadn't had a response. So what's going on here? I think it's pretty unlikely that the government are actually using these phones to spy on people. I mean, if they did want to spy on people, I don't even think they'd have to physically tamper with a phone to do so. I do think it is possible that the manufacturer or other companies that had had hold of the phone in between that would have set up selling it to the government could have actually installed some of these things to gather data on the users. I guess you can't rule out the possibility that the government might have been aware of this and might have known that that's why the phones might have been so cheap, but there's no evidence for this. It is possible that somehow someone is profiting off these phones, whether that be from the data gathering or from the apps that are on the phone. Maybe they were from companies that paid for them to be on there. But maybe none of this is nefarious at all. It could just be a poorly refurbished phone. I mean, I think the voice recorder not being able to be uninstalled, I think that's probably the most suspicious thing about it, but again, it could just be a coincidence. If anyone knows more about this kind of stuff than me, then please feel free to chime in the comments, but really, I think when you dissect it all, it doesn't seem that mysterious. OP themselves even seem to acknowledge after a while that it might not have been as mysterious as they first thought. It could still be shady, and I wouldn't be surprised if there is a company somewhere profiting off this, whether that be from the ads or from their data collection. But if you've seen The Social Dilemma, then you know that that just happens regardless. You don't really get a say in that. If you have technology and you have an online presence, then you're going to get data collected on you regardless, whether you're aware of it or not. To finish on a lighter mystery, a couple of weeks ago, user KoofNoot made a post on r/RBI titled "Bought plates from Walmart and insider plates from Chateau Marmont. This is a hotel in LA and the plates were bought from Wisconsin." The post reads, "How could this have happened? They appear to be misprints. There is still the Mainstays branding on the bottom of the plates, which I assume is the manufacturer. Update, I called the hotel. The concierge said it was really strange, as the hotel doesn't appear to get their plates made by Walmart and to email them the pictures. I just sent the email and will update when I hear back." At the time of writing the notes for this video, this mystery is unsolved, though I'll be sure to include an update if it gets solved by the time I upload it. OP might have updated the post by then. Same goes for all of these mysteries, although I do doubt that the first one will be solved anytime soon. Here is the photo of the plates. And this is the box they came in. I'd never heard of the Chateau Marmont before, and that's pretty surprising considering after researching this hotel, it seems like quite an iconic place. It definitely sounds like quite a fancy hotel considering one night stay in January would cost £361 according to Google, which is pretty expensive. Obviously the mystery is the plates, so I won't digress too much, but there are some pretty interesting and crazy things that have happened at this hotel. According to Curbed Los Angeles, comedian John Belushi died of a drug overdose there in 1982. Helmut Newton, a well-known fashion photographer who lived at the hotel, crashed his car there and died. John Bonham from Led Zeppelin drove a motorbike through the lobby. Lindsay Lohan was banned from the hotel after she ran up a $46,000 bill to her room. Jim Morrison jumped off the roof or terrace, sources vary, and Britney Spears was temporarily banned after smearing food on her face. Anyway, back to the mystery. Even if OP hadn't found out from the hotel, it would seem pretty unlikely that such a hotel would get their plates from Walmart. User Nuisance Squirrel suggested that the hotel got their plates from the same manufacturer or fulfillment place, and that there was a boxing error. They later said that they thought the same manufacturers or printers were likely, considering the Mainstays print was on the bottom of the plate. This sounds a pretty plausible theory, but I wonder if the hotel would even be likely to use the same manufacturer as Walmart. I could totally be wrong and maybe they're just being cheap, but I can't imagine paying close to £400 for one night at a hotel and them having plates from the same place as Walmart. It looks like the Chateau Marmont have plain white plates, at least that's what's shown on the website. So I mean, I wouldn't completely rule out them using the same manufacturer as Walmart. I mean, a white plate's pretty much just a white plate, right? But if they don't have printed plates like these, then that theory still doesn't explain the mystery. Some users suggested that these could be plates for room service or the poolside bar, or that they are souvenirs or from a special event. I mean, it sounds plausible, but the plates don't look very professional. The text isn't completely straight and it's fading on one of the plates. Another user suggested that someone bought plain white plates from Walmart for a craft, then boxed them back up after and returned them. But why buy them for a purpose, then return them? If it was a craft, you'd think whoever bought the plates would want to keep them or do something else with them. Even if they didn't like how they turned out and wanted to return them. I mean, it might just be me, but I just wouldn't dare do that in case the employee opened the box there and then and were just like, what are these? That'd be so awkward. Even if they didn't check before giving a refund, you'd think they'd check at some point before just putting them back out on the shelves. I mean, they could have been chipped or smashed, or one could have been missing. It also just seems like a bit of a weird craft. I mean, I'm not saying no one would do it, but why would you just print a hotel logo onto some white plates? Unless you were just trying to pass them off that you'd bought them like that, but then why would you try and return them? If this was a craft, you'd expect it to either be a personal thing or that someone was trying to sell them on, maybe trying to fool people that they were genuinely from the hotel. So again, why return them? It was also suggested that they could have just been someone trying to practice printing on plates and then returning them so they didn't lose any money. Another possibility is that they were a prop from an amateur photo shoot or a film or something. But that's still assuming that no one bothered to open the box at all from the refund being given to when they were put back out on the shelf. Another point to note is that the plates were not the same shape as the ones shown on the box. In the photos that OP uploads, one of the plates is kind of more square shaped, whereas all the ones on the box are just shown as round. So it seems that they were completely different plates. If someone did just return these after they'd done a craft or something with them, then they were either from a completely different place or a completely different set of plates from Walmart. Did someone just have a spare Walmart plate box lying around, or did they actually specifically buy a new set of plates to return these in the place? I don't know, it doesn't sound too likely, but I guess anything's possible. The only other thing I can think of is if someone just did this on purpose, just to create a little mystery of some kind. But again, that also relies on the plates not being checked before they're put back on the shelf. So I really have no idea on this one. I can't believe a post about plates turned into such a rabbit hole, but honestly it was really fascinating looking into all this. So I hope you enjoyed these Reddit mysteries, and if you did, please consider liking and subscribing. I feel like real internet mysteries are just few and far between these days. It's either some kind of unoriginal attempts at ARGs or, you know, maybe just some random code that gets posted on a subreddit. So it's kind of hard to find content for these kinds of videos that hasn't just been done to death, like Cicada 3301 and that kind of stuff. I mean, I do really enjoy doing these kind of internet mystery videos, it's just really hard to find content for them. So if you do have any suggestions of any internet mysteries you'd like me to cover, please feel free to leave them in the comments or contact me on Discord or Reddit, those will be in the description. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next Thursday in a new video.